In this video, we are going to give an overview of the Canon XA10 and cover the most commonly used functions and features that you will need to know to get good results from this camera. We will start by going through what is included in the kit each time you borrow it from the kit room. XA10 camera, battery 1, battery 2, lens cap, charger, charger mains cable, USB cable, shotgun microphone, microphone windshield, long XLR cable, short XLR cable, and headphones. Each time you borrow this kit from the kit room, you will be asked to check the kit thoroughly before taking it away to ensure all items of kit are present. There is a kit list card included in each kit that lists all the items to help you identify if an item is missing. If kits are returned with any items missing, you will need to pay a fine and will be banned from using the kit room until these fines are paid. It is therefore very important that you notify a member of the kit room team of any missing items before you take the kit away. So let's look at the external controls of the camera. To the front of the camera, we have the lens cap and the lens hood. The lens cap should always be replaced when the camera is not in use to protect the lens and keep it free from dust and dirt. Behind the lens is the focus ring. This is used to focus the camera when in manual mode. To the rear of the camera is the power button, used to turn the camera on and off, and next to that is the power indicator light, which shows if the camera is on, off, or charging. Next to the power button is a zoom control, which gives you control over the zoom of the lens. And to the other side of the camera is the mode switch, which allows you to switch between 3 different settings: auto, M for manual, and cinema. To the rear of the camera, just below the mode switch, is a start-stop button, used to start and stop recordings. And just below this is the power supply input. We also have the EVF, electronic viewfinder, the battery slot, and also some custom controls. To the left of the camera is the flip out touchscreen, and if you flip out the screen you can see that it spins through 270 degrees. The screen can also be folded flat against the camera body. Under the screen we have some more controls. The first button switches between the camera's record and playback modes, and it is also used when transferring footage to a computer via the supplied USB cable. Next to this is the display button, which displays more or less information on the camera screen, such as battery life, record time remaining, and other information like frame rate and video quality. Next to this we have 2 SD card slots covered by a sliding door. This camera actually has a 64GB built-in memory, but if you wish you can also record to SD cards. Below the SD card slot is the infrared setting, which is used to film in very low light conditions or at night, and next to that is another sliding door where both the AV out socket and the headphone socket are located. One further thing to note on this panel is the small reset button, which can be pressed using a small sharp item such as a pin or paper clip. This allows you to reset the camera back to a default factory setting if required. The camera screen itself is a touchscreen interface, so many of the camera settings are controlled from the on-screen menu when the camera is in use. We will look at some of these later in this video. To the left of the screen are 2 more physical buttons. This one switches between manual and autofocus, and this one is used to turn the image stabilizer on or off. Okay, over to the other side of the camera now, and underneath the camera hand strap is another door that flips out. It is very important that you locate this, as this is where you plug the USB cable into the camera when transferring footage to a computer. Many students report that they have been given the wrong cable with the kit because they are trying to connect the cable to this port. However, they do have the correct cable, it just needs connecting to the actual USB port, located under the door under the hand strap. Also located here is a connection for a wired remote and a mini HDMI port for outputting the signal from the camera to a HD TV or projector. On the bottom of the camera is the battery release, here, for taking the battery out, and also a tripod plate mounting hole to attach the camera to a tripod. On the top handle of the camera, we have some more controls. There's a second start-stop button, so you have control over the camera if you are carrying it by the handle. Also, this start-stop button has a lock, which means you can lock its operation. Next to this start-stop button, we have a second zoom control. Again, this does the same as the first zoom control. However, in the settings menu of the camera, you can actually change the speed of these zooms independently. So you could have one set to fast zoom and one set to slow zoom. Above both these controls is a cold shoe attachment. This is useful for attaching a whole host of accessories, such as sound recorders, microphones, top lights, or even external monitors. And finally, we have the audio section. Behind the focus ring are the built-in microphones. There are two built-in microphones, one each side of the camera, allowing you to record in stereo. On one side of the camera are two XLR inputs for channel 1 and 2, and a third microphone input in the form of a 3.5mm jack hidden away down here. On the other side are the audio controls. These switches marked channel 1 and 2 control the type of input for the XLR inputs. Line is used for a line level device such as an iPod, CD player, or pretty much anything that isn't a microphone. Mic should be used for microphones that do not require phantom power. A mic plus 48 volts is used for microphones that do use phantom power. The microphone supplied with this camera kit, the Rode NTG1, does require phantom power, so you will need to use the mic plus 48 volt setting if using the supplied external microphone. The switch in the middle, labelled INT/EXT, switches between internal and external microphones. It is very important to have this set to INT if you are using the internal microphones built into the camera. And it is very important to have it set to EXT if you are using the external microphone. You will get no sound if this is set to the wrong setting, so double check this before you start filming something important. The two switches marked ATT, which stands for attenuator, cut the signal coming into the channel by 20 dB. This setting should be set to off by default and only switched on when in a very noisy environment where normal record levels are difficult to achieve. The dials located to the right of this panel provide control over the level of the signal coming in through the XLR ports. The level meter on the screen should be used to set the level to peak between -10 and 0 dB. We will cover audio recordings with the XA10 further on in the video. So to get the camera up and running, we need to put the battery in. So make sure the gold contacts on the end of the battery match up with the gold contacts inside the battery slot. Then simply slide the battery in until it clicks into place. Alternatively, you can use the power supply, which plugs into here. To power the camera on, simply press and hold the power button for a second, and the camera will turn on. Okay, so now we've had a look at the external controls of the camera. It's time to make our first recording, but quickly before we do that, we'd like to initialize the camera, which basically means formatting the internal memory so that any footage that's on there from a previous student is deleted ready and the drive is cleared up ready for us to use. All the following recordings we're going to do them in auto mode, because this is going to be the first mode. If you're not familiar with using manual controls on a camera, you probably want to use it in auto mode to start off with. In further videos we'll go through setting up manual options such as focus, exposure and white balance as well. But for now we're going to be shooting in auto. So make sure the switch on the right hand side of the camera is switched to the green setting, auto. And then first thing we're going to do is initialize the camera and format the drive. So if you press this button here, which switches between record and playback, until you see this screen. Now your chances are you will see some footage on there of a previous student's work. So what we want to do is get rid of that. So click on menu, go to the spanner menu and scroll down until we see initialize. If you press this orange blank space here with a little arrow, that will take you into the initialized memory. If we had SD cards in these slots, we would see on this screen that memory card A and memory card B could be formatted, but they're greyed out at the moment because we don't have any cards in these slots. So the only memory we can initialize is the built-in memory. So we tap on that, and you'll see the total space is 62.3 gigabytes, and actually 8.92 are in use at the moment. So we want to initialize and free up that memory. So if we tap initialize, and I'd recommend using the complete initialize, which wipes the disk completely. So click that and then just tap on yes, and this can take a few minutes depending on how much footage is on there. It's good practice to do this each time you take the camera out to free up some memory before you go out shooting. Okay, so when it's finished initializing, it will say process completed successfully, and just tap OK. That'll bring you back to the menu. You can just tap the X to get out of the menu. Okay, so because we've got no scenes, we've got no recordings on there, we've just wiped the memory, you actually don't see anything. So if we go back to the record mode, pressing this button here, and now we have a blank drive to start recording to. So to make our first recording, it's quite simple. We're going to use one of the record buttons. So we've got, as we saw before, we've got one on the back here, and we've also got one on the top of the camera on the handle. So either can be used. So what we want to do is quickly set up a scene. Use the zoom control to zoom in or out. Frame your subject as you want it. Okay, so I have my shot set up. I just press record. And I'm going to do a bit of a zoom and a pan here. So let's zoom in whilst panning across. Okay, so I put a little bit of movement into that shot. If we just press stop button, and then what we can do is we can go back to playback, and we can actually see our clips there. So if we tap on one, we can watch the recording back. And there we go, that's our first recording. If you need to delete individual clips, this can be done from this menu. So if you tap on edit and delete, now you can select today's date, so you can delete all the clips filmed today. You can select certain clips to be deleted, or you can select all scenes. So we're just going to select certain clips. So I want to just delete this first clip. Tap OK, yes, and it will delete it.